Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Kicking Tables. Today, we are delighted to welcome Dennis Truelight, the creator of the Light Strikers RPG system. Dennis, welcome to the show.
Hello, and I'm very honored to be here, and greetings to everyone.
Excellent. Why don't you tell us, first of all, what is Light Strikers? Tell us a bit about your Light Strikers RPG system.
Sure. I kind of like to describe it as, this multi-platform RPG, or what people also like to call like a transmedia type of property. Because from the get-go, like right out the gates, I had it envisioned to not only be a tabletop role-playing game, but I have a bunch of different stories I've been working on that I'll be releasing as like a novelette, a short story, and even a comic book in the works. And, with my own background coming from film and animation, there's definitely, high hopes and aspirations for something of that magnitude sometimes.
Okay. But it's a full-on RPG system that kind of like a D&D style game. Is that really what Light Strikers is?
Oh, most definitely. I feel like that's going to be probably, the best way to experience it, because, you can read the stories or you can kind of get an idea of how the world is. But, I'd love for people to create their own original characters, partake in the world, expand it with their own imagination and creativity, and just, again, just live it for sure and enjoy it.
Awesome.
So the key to any good RPG is that world that you're building. So tell us a little bit about the world of Light Strikers. Like what is it all about? What have you done there?
Sure. Well, I've been playing RPGs and board games and video games, watching, anime, comics, reading comics and books. So I really just wanted to create something that brings and mashes up a lot of my favorite aspects from all these things that my friends and I have enjoyed, and from our backgrounds. So that way, we can finally play out and again live, our truest, and wildest fantasies, right? So it's basically I like to say it's a sci-fi and high fantasy setting that exists in this anachronistic world. That there is obviously some kind of like a basis for logic and things to exist, but I still like that kind of supernatural and that almost anything can go.
Okay. Well, you advertise it as you mentioned, a mashup of fantasy novels, retro cartoons. You even mentioned anime, JRPGs, and superhero comics. You've taken all of these cool, geeky things, mashed them all up into one world. Was it difficult making a world that was cohesive with all of these different styles in it?
That's a great question. I think from the outset, when I was kind of imagining it and picturing it in its early stages, it did seem a bit daunting. But a lot of the animes specifically too, and the retro cartoons, right, from America, they kind of break all these boundaries. Now I think maybe certain retro cartoons could be criticized for being too childish or not being super logical and whatnot. But there's still like a pureness and a funness in that art that makes it enjoyable. Anime kind of like breaks this all the time, but gets away with it.
Right.
Some of my favorite series they just create worlds of fantasy where it all just feels right. And it makes sense.
Sure.
But again, it could maybe have conflicting genres or different aspects that you don't think would normally work together.
Okay.
So your website says that this is a brand new game system campaign setting. Tell us a little bit about that. How does that differ from somebody who's used to playing a D&D game?
Sure. Well, the system, I'd like to say, in its very essence, it's very simple. You use a 2d6 or two six-sided dice system to roll against a target difficulty to complete, most actions. The reason I call it the clash system is I put variations on this. There's going to be, I like to say, thematic and flavorful elements that kind of capture the feel of different classes, different powers, and just, to make it not seem like it's always just one thing. Because, I play a lot of board games as well, and dice rolling is fun. Dice mechanics are fun. You like to see different results, and you like to keep rolling sometimes. So I really want to just have this organic and thematic and flavorful feel. I don't want to be like super, mathematical and computational, where things have to be like 100% like statistical all the time. It's like you might clash an attack, like an enemy, for example, would have an ability that would hit and damage if the total is between a range of 3 to 7. That way it makes combat fast and fluid. This monster is capable of doing this amount of damage, for example, with this this example, like a basic attack. And then the target gets to kind of like react and clash back with their specific kind of defense or their reaction.
Okay. I want to talk about the world itself for just a little bit and ask, like, what are the classes? Do you have classes in this system like a typical RPG? What are some of the classes that people can choose from and create characters out of?
Yeah, cool. Well, the 4 basic human classes are the Braver, the Magizard, Trick Scout, and the Exalter. And there's also a Dwarf and an Elf, who kind of have like this Light Striker twist. And they kind of, like, in an old school style of RPG, they kind of have their own type of starting class. But they can still be what the Light Striker human classes are.
Right.
And each class can definitely like branch out in its own direction based on certain powers, like their paths where they go. But I also encourage the actual player or the hero to work with the Sage Commander to start develop their own custom class.
Oh.
So in other words, like, 2 Bravers are going to go down 2 different paths naturally because they might choose different powers that are available. But I want to encourage and give guidelines to say, well, if your character is pursuing a certain career or has a certain dream or hobbies, or wants to perhaps specialize in some style of combat or aspect of their character, then they can work with the Sage Commander, I call, or the Game Master, and based off of examples of certain mechanics and some guidelines that I provide is what will help you actually create a unique class within one of the starting classes.
That's awesome. So if somebody like myself in a typical RPG likes to always play the magic user, I always love the AoE spells and stuff, what class am I going to choose in Light Strikers?
You'll choose the Magizard. They use a power called Infecana, and the source of energy is called Spiritus.
Okay.
Holy energy inside of you. And so basically, they Spiricast or Spiriforge, and you would be looking at trying to, again, create effects that are going to target, like you said, AoE or multiple enemies.
Okay, so these are the kind of things that really makes Light Strikers stand out against a typical RPG that has those typical classes. It sounds like you've really created something wholly unique. And tell us a bit about what really makes this stand out from RPGs people are familiar with.
Cool, thank you for that. Yeah, I just love, again, the mashup feel, and as people hopefully get to see more of the core rulebook, the towns, the characters, the enemies, the factions, and things that I've designed, as long as as well as with the stories I've written, which provide already a good amount of world building, for you to draw inspiration from. And there's a lot of unique things I think people will have fun with, because you'll get this sense of like discovery and exploration.
Right.
So if you take a break and you play this, let's say, as opposed to other campaigns and worlds that you've already been playing with, you might be very familiar with those and be all caught up to date with what resources they've had and stuff like that. But maybe you guys don't do a lot of home brewing or whatnot, or maybe going across the internet, you've kind of felt like you found, I guess, something that's already similar to what you've been playing.
Right.
So this, again, this offers its own flavor, its own style, and I hope that people will appreciate that and enjoy it.
How often will you be, offering up like pre-built campaigns, that sort of thing? And will there be more campaigns that you've got planned, sort of stuff in the works?
So, do you mean by campaigns like adventure modules or like?
Yeah, adventure modules. Yeah.
Yeah. So I would like to do basically, as many as I can, without being able to see too far into the future. I have what I call like a season plan. So I have about 12 solid kind of adventure modules that can be pieced together into your campaign, and they can be run kind of together in any order and whatnot. But I love writing. I love writing adventures. I love writing stories. So, I can just definitely keep the ideas coming, and, based on what possible, community feedback comes my way, I can continue to work off of that.
Right. So what tools, when somebody wants to get into Light Striker, what tools are you providing for what you call, I think you call it the Sage Master? Is that sort of like your game master?
Oh,
Sa-
yeah.
Sage
Command.
Commander. So your Sage Commander. Is there a Sage Commander book? Is there a player guide? Like what are the tools available for Light Strikers for people who want to get into the world, create characters? What are all the tools you're providing?
Oh, great question. So the core rulebook will be divided into the two sections, as you mentioned. So one that's for the players primarily, but of course the Sage Commander will benefit from.
Right.
And then the other section for the Sage Commander.
Okay.
So there's a lot of pre-built information about the continent, the world, locations, standout NPCs, and all the information to get your classes started,
Okay.
and a good amount of abilities to begin with and start to collect as you improve, level up. And then I have different tables, guidelines, plenty of examples, so that you can generate your own type of characters, everything from their name to their background, perhaps where they're from, parts and details of their history, and then of course within each city and town they have their own breakdown as well of random events or things that can happen.
Awesome. So everything is in that one book. Like
Yes.
most things are in the one book for both the Sage Commander and the users. Now let's give you a chance to talk a bit about the transmedia stuff. So the stuff that's in the same world as the game. What are you hoping to do, or what are you working on in the transmedia side of Light Strikers?
Yeah, I mean, that brings me, of course, lots of great joy. I have a novelette that I previewed the first 3 chapters of. And I also have one short story. And the short story is definitely going to be linked to this cadre or this team of younger Light Strikers I call the Quest Blasters. And then the novelette focuses on one character now. But, the plan is to continue with another novelette that will feature another character that will intertwine with the one that we were introduced to before. And it's all, it's in the same world, the same type of, canon.
Right. And besides the novel, do you have plans for anything else in the world of Light Strikers?
Yeah, the next one that's the most feasible is a comic book.
Nice.
And then I've had some ideas being thrown back and forth for some kind of like animated short or something even that's, live action or maybe a combination of both.
Wow, that's great.
A fun little indie feature film on like a shoestring budget, like a martial arts romantic comedy and stuff. So I'm no stranger to making, kind of little short film projects and feature film projects.
That's awesome. So the Kickstarter is on until October 2nd, but if somebody misses the Kickstarter, can they still get Light Strikers online? Where can they go to learn more about it, and can it be purchased outside of the Kickstarter once it's done?
Yes, definitely 100%. Everything that's available in PDF, which will be, the core rule book, the printable cards and all that. And, the novels, it'll all be available on the website. So what I'll do is I'll set up and have a shop going after the Kickstarter, so you can go ahead and make a purchase.
Okay, and you mentioned they will come as a PDF, so it's all digital?
Yes, the plan for now, definitely on the storefront, but, working with drive-thru right now, a print on demand after the Kickstarter also could be an issue and everything. So I'm just going to kind of weigh my options as well, but yeah, they'll definitely be available at the very least in PDF format.
Excellent. Well, a lot of people like digital anyway. Just have it on your tablet there at the table. It works great, right? That's awesome. Dennis, thank you so much for spending some time with us, telling us all about Light Strikers. It sounds like a fascinating new world. And that as you mentioned, the clash system it feels like a little bit more refined battle system, very specific to Light Strikers. So that sounds very cool. And good luck with the campaign, and even after the campaign, building this whole new world of the transmedia stuff. It sounds awesome. It sounds like you've got lofty plans for everything, and I wish you all the best in it.
Well, thank you very much, gentlemen, for having me, and it was a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, everybody. Thank you for watching. I hope you check out my website, lightstrikersrpg.com, and back the Kickstarter. And please don't forget to subscribe to OMG Nexus.